My name is Dr. Claire Uteman. I'm a senior lecturer in psychology at Queen Margaret University, and I'm also the admissions tutor for the Bachelor of Social Science in Psychology programme. So I'm here today just to talk to you about psychology at QMU, give you a little bit of background about psychology, what it is and what we hope to achieve with our programme. So I hope you find this useful. I've also given you my email address at the beginning of this slide, but also I'll give you again at the end if you have any questions relating to any of the content that I'm talking about today. So just to introduce myself again, so Dr. Claire Uteman, my email address is on the front slide here. I've also given you the email address of Dr. Olivia Sagan, who is our Head of Division of Psychology, Sociology and Education. So first of all, I'm just going to start with a little bit of an introduction about what psychology is. We are governed in the UK by the British Psychological Society, also known as the BPS, and you'll hear me refer to the BPS throughout this talk. So the BPS define psychology as the scientific study of how we think, of how we act, how we feel and how we interact individually and also in groups. So in this programme we cover a whole range of topics that encapsulate that overall holistic view of individuals, our thoughts and behaviours. It's really concerned with all aspects of behaviours and it comes together to create a very thriving academic discipline, but also a really vital professional practice. At the bottom of this slide here, I've given you the BPS website. If you go onto that website, you'll see a whole load of information that's really useful for you as aspiring psychologists. You can look at different areas of psychology and what each of them mean when we talk about things like health psychology, sports psychology, clinical psychology. You can go on and you can look at what each of those core domains are and what they mean, and also some other information about employment, about future study and all sorts of other information that you might be interested in. So you can take a little look at that website in your own time. So first of all, I'd like to talk to you about why study psychology specifically with us at QMU. We are very distinctive in the fact that we are a smaller university. We have got small class sizes, which I think leads to a much more personal attention and more informal learning environment. We have a purpose-built campus, which was opened in 2007. Which means that we have everything all there for you in one campus area rather than being split up through lots of different buildings. This means that you can have a campus environment but also experience city life. We're very close to the city of Edinburgh. We're only a 6-minute train journey from Waverley to Musselburgh, so lots of our students choose to live on campus perhaps for the first year or second year and then move into the city, so they get to experience both elements of being at university. We have excellent facilities supporting both learning and research. We have dedicated research teams, dedicated learning support teams who you will meet at your time throughout QMU. We've also got a really high track record of student satisfaction, mostly assessed through the National Student Survey and also our own internal student satisfaction records. In the year of 2019 to 2020, we were revalidated by the BPS in order to bring a new programme to the fore, which we really feel offers excellent student experience with a bigger emphasis on theoretical understanding, but also a hands-on skills building experience for our students with a really strong focus on employability. I'll talk a little bit more about the actual programme as we go through this presentation. So this is just starting off to give you an overview of our programme and what accreditation means. So the BPS look at every psychology degree throughout the UK and assess them in terms of whether or not they feel that they're meeting the standards that they require a psychology graduate to have in order to go on and do further study to become a practising psychologist. So our programme has been accredited by the BPS, which means that it confers on all of our graduates what's known as the Graduate Basis for Chartership, the GBC. You have to have GBC in order to go on and do any professional qualification at a later date. So essentially, if you want to become a practising psychologist in any field, you have to have GBC. So that's why it's really important for us to show that our course is accredited and meets all the standards that are presented by the BPS. Again, you can have a look at the careers section of the BPS website if you want further information about what that accreditation means and what it can lead you to do. So in terms of our actual programme, we have a 4-year programme at QMU. Some people may join us in year 2 or year 3 as direct entrance, but the majority of our students do join us in year 1. What we have in psychology is an overlap between psychology and sociology. We are the division of psychology, sociology and education. So you will do a number of modules, a number of credits that are sociologically based. Or you do have the option to also choose biology-based studies. So in the first year, everybody, whether you're doing the undergraduate BSc in psychology, the joint honours psychology and sociology, or the public sociology degree, will all do the same programme. So you'll do about half of your credits in sociology or biology if you choose that route, and the other half in psychology. So semester 1 and semester 2, you would do half sociology or biology, and then you would do a series of introductory modules that lead you through the key core concepts that we want to focus on within our psychology degree. So social, developmental, individual differences, biological and cognitive psychology. As you go through our 4 years, each of these just becomes a little bit more in-depth and you do a little bit more work and moving away from the kind of historical, theoretical and moving more into the contemporary and the practical. So as you move into year 2 here, you can see that each of those modules is given a little bit more space and you're earning more credits for each of those core constructs. You will also, in the first semester, still be doing some additional credits, either in sociology, physiology, which is a leading on from the biology route, or you can now have the option of doing some education modules as well. QMU recently started initial teacher training for a 4-year teacher training degree, which is taken up within the psychology, sociology and education division. So we have a really good wealth of experience there for people who are interested in looking at the educational side of psychology. By the time you get to Christmas of year 2, however, when you get into that second semester after Christmas, you're just going to be focusing on psychology. So you don't look at any of the sociology or education modules anymore. And that's, again, where we start to get a little bit more focused on psychology. So in year 3, again, it's becoming a little bit more contemporary and a little bit more practically based, looking at more applied elements and research elements. And then by the time you get to 4th year, most of what you're going to be doing, a third of what you do in that year, is entirely your dissertation, your research project. We have one core module that everybody takes, which is Psychology of Contemporary Issues, which again I'll just come on to in a little moment. And then we have 3 optional modules that you can choose to tailor your experience to suit the particular areas of interest that you have or the plans that you might have for the future. Some of these optional subjects may include things like memory, eyewitness psychology, which is a branch of forensic psychology, things like cognitive science of beliefs, evolutionary psychology, happiness and well-being within a health psychology context, psychology of pain, again within a health psychology context, peer relations in childhood and adolescence, which is a really nice mixture of social psychology and educational psychology, community engagement, where we encourage our students to volunteer within community or work within the community and reflect on how psychology is aiding them in that engagement within the community, and we look at how important that engagement with communities are, and political psychology. We might not necessarily run all of these modules every year. That depends on staff availability and other things within the programme, but this is indicative of the types of subjects that you would have to choose from. One of the things that we tried to do in our new programme was to introduce far more variety in terms of teaching and learning. As a discipline, really, we want to try and move as far away from the standard, like sit down and have a lecture and then have a 3-hour timed exam where you have to churn out as many essays as possible. We're really trying to move away from that, that way of learning, the way that I learned psychology. And I have to say the degree that we present nowadays is so different from the degree that I did at Glasgow University 15-ish, a little bit longer than that, years ago. So what we really want to do is include a wide range of teaching methods. we have a real emphasis on student engagement and getting students involved in a very hands-on way from the very beginning, using as many real-life examples of psychology and research as we can. That also applies to our assessment methods, which range from all sorts of things like case studies, vignettes, writing research reports, doing quizzes, and working within a group or as an individual to do presentations, research posters, the sort of thing that you might present at an academic conference in the future. So we try to make it as varied and as broad as we can in terms of the way that we teach and the way that we learn. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples here of some of the modules that we do teach on, and the way that we learn and the way that we assess those. I think it would be, it's nice for you to see the sorts of things that you'll actually be doing when you're sitting in a class, or the sorts of things that you might be expected to produce as an assessment. So this is one of my modules, Exploring Research in Psychology in Year 2. And one of the things we've done in our new programme is really shift a lot of our research as far down the programme as we can, so that the research is really embedded right the way from first year, but with a focus on it from second year onwards, right the way up to fourth year. One of the other things we've done is to have an exact split between qualitative and quantitative research from year 2 onwards, so that you get 50% of qual and 50% of quant. Again, that's something that doesn't happen in very many universities, and there's always been a real focus on quantitative research throughout university, and almost a sort of qualitative versus quantitative, like that they sit in a kind of binary distinction between them, rather than actually looking at just research as a whole and thinking about all the different ways that we can answer research questions, rather than a predetermined I like numbers and I like qualitative. We don't want to think like that. We really try to get us to think about the research question and all the different ways that we could answer that question. So within this module, rather than teaching it just as here's the stats and here's the qualitative, what we do is we look at core areas of psychology that you've already been learning about in first year. So social, developmental, individual differences, biological and cognitive psychology. We take each of those 4 topics and we think about how we could answer questions within those topics using both qualitative and quantitative methods. So it's really hands-on. You'll be getting hands-on experience of using research methods, data gathering, data generation, data analysis. And at the end of that module, the way that we assess it is you would have an online multiple choice quiz, which you answer based on some of the things that you've been learning throughout the module. But then you also produce an individual poster, which I'll just show you some examples of what those look like. So this is a real example of a poster that was submitted last year. We asked our students to pick one of the topics that we'd been discussing and present us a poster that show how qualitative and quantitative methods are both used within that topic of individual differences, in this case intelligence, in order to help us understand some component of that area that we're interested in looking at, that research area that we're interested in. One of the reasons that we use these posters is that we're interested in helping our students understand lots of different ways of engagement with research and how to disseminate their research. And one of the first things that most early career researchers do, students included, is go to academic conferences and present a poster where they stick a big poster up on the wall. People come and ask them questions about it. In this case, we also got our students to do a 5-minute presentation telling us about their poster and telling us what they had found, which really replicates what you would have to do if you went to an academic conference. We're very aware that in previous years people could get all the way to 4th year and not really have actually had to talk to anyone about research or share their research in any way. So we're trying to get people used to doing that from an early stage in their career, rather than leaving it until the crisis point when suddenly they're being told they have to go to a conference next week and they've never done it. This was a really, really good way of getting our students engaging with content, but also increasing their confidence, being aware of all the different ways that research can be disseminated. This is just another example. This was looking at developmental research, and again, an indication of looking at some of the theory that we use, but also the research methods, and just some of the nice ways that they can be presented in terms of looking at research poster design. My second example is biological psychology. This is a core module in level 3, which looks at all sorts of biological aspects of psychology, thinking about things like brain structures and function. In terms of the assessment, this uses a mental health case study, which is really meaningful for students who want to go into clinical or counselling psychology. A lot of our students come to us thinking they might want to go into clinical or counselling psychology, but not really having a great understanding about what that means or what it might undertake. So this is a really good way of helping you engage with those types of behaviours and those types of assessments as you make those decisions going through. There's a lot going on in this module. There is some plan, hopefully, if we get back into labs, which hopefully we will be doing next year, where we will be doing things like brain dissections, which are, of course, optional and will very probably be done on an online basis this year, but hopefully we'll be back in the lab next year to be able to do that for people to come and take part in. So following on from this module, a lot of our students have ended up doing dissertation projects looking at things like virtual reality, manipulations of faces, manipulating faces to show different things, either becoming more masculine, more feminine, and how that ties in with the way the biology of our brains and the way our brains are set up from an evolutionary perspective to deal with what we see in front of us. So this is just an example of some of that face manipulations, and this is indicative of some of the research that might be done in terms of social perception research, and looking at how our brain understands and deals with information such as what faces look like and how it processes that. Third example, peer relations in childhood and adolescence. So this is the one that I mentioned before, which is run by one of our lecturers who also teaches very heavily in the education programme. So this is looking at how psychology what psychology can tell us about development of peer relations in children and adolescents, and looks at all sorts of things to do with the social development of these children, but also how that can be applied in an educational setting and beyond. So it looks at things like how relationships are represented in toys and books, a variety of different relationships and how they are dealt with and how they are understood. We had a visit from the Buddy the Bear charity who came in to talk about that as an intervention to deal with bullying and how to cope with that. And the assessment uses a really innovative group project to try and explore a particular element of this module that could be presented either as a vignette or a case study, or even in the case of many of our students last year who chose to write a comic book that dealt with some of the issues surrounding interactions with individuals with differences, so maybe perhaps something to do with how children relate to other children with physical impairments, or bullying, or any of these other elements that are interesting to them. This is just some photos to show you what we did on our Buddy the Bear exercise day, where Buddy the Bear came along and we chatted all about why this was an effective intervention, what they intended to do, and why it particularly works with children of the age groups that they work with. So it was it's a really great way to let our students see psychology in action rather than just theoretical. And finally, the last example I want to show you is the psychology of contemporary issues. This has been a core module in fourth year for a number of years, and we kept it on in the new iteration of the programme that we've developed this year. It changes all the time, as you can imagine. It is about contemporary issues. It's about things that are happening in the world today and how psychology helps us understand that. What kind of psychological practices can we use in those particular areas? What different ways of inquiry in psychology can help us understand that? Where are the gaps in the research? What can we offer as psychologists to helping us understand a variety of contemporary issues? So things like austerity, mental health, climate change, prejudice, all elements to do with psychology within the community. And I can imagine this year it's going to be full of how the community reacted to COVID, what different community elements are involved, things like in-group, out-group relationships, all these other elements that are related to contemporary issues that we want to think about where psychology is actually acting in society. So in terms of studying psychology at QMU, I think all psychology degrees have a real commitment to both written and numerical skills. So you're learning about your writing skills, you're learning academic writing, you're also learning numerical skills in terms of your research design, your research analysis, and that's embedded in every single module that you'll do from first through to fourth year. But you also develop what's called psychological literacy, which is something that we think about quite a lot in terms of designing our programme, designing our modules, and I think is reflected particularly well in that last module, the contemporary issues module that I spoke about. It's thinking about how psychology can be used to the greater good, how you will become a psychologically literate citizen, and how you can adapt your knowledge to contemporary life. And all of the elements of transferable skills which you'll learn in terms of employability and helping you succeed in your career are also very much embedded throughout this programme. Again, one of the things I just want to highlight is our commitment to research in all 4 years of study. We do have research embedded in first year, but particularly the new strand of research methods modules in second, third year, and in fourth year with your research project really help you understand the way that research is inherently important to all areas of psychology, and the way that that is central to your understanding of psychology as a discipline. You will be developing your skills through research participation, through lab-based work and tutorials, through different guided projects, qualitative and quantitative research projects, and culminating in your research dissertation in fourth year. You'll also have lots of opportunities to volunteer as research assistants or to join research groups in particular area of interest. For example, we have what I'm a member of, the Toy Box research group, where we look particularly at social and educational research with children or adults, but with a social interactive slant on the research that we do. There's also a forensic group, there's a memory group, there's various different ways that you can get involved in research groups throughout your time at QMU. Definitely not limited to fourth years. We welcome students from all years to participate in those research opportunities. So in terms of the actual experience and community at QMU, we have an active student-led psychology and sociology society. They organise both social and academic events. I've talked already about this high focus that we have in quantitative and qualitative psychology, which I really do think makes us quite unique in the area, and part of that is due to the smaller size that we have, that we are able to really draw on the particular skills of individuals within our staff team and make decisions to ensure that there is an equitable balance between qualitative and quantitative research. The opportunities that we have for volunteering and working within research. We also have what's called the peer assisted learning group, where older, more experienced students from other year groups will assist and mentor students from the younger year groups. So you've always got this nice sense of community and working together throughout your time at QMU. Particularly when you get to fourth year, it's not overly taught in terms of coming in and us giving you the content. It's very much co-developed with the students in terms of the programme that we offer, and making sure that there's a really high level of participation there. So we like to think of it more as a kind of research apprentice year rather than an overly taught one, with a lot of opportunity for you to tailor your experience to suit your own needs and your own particular areas of interest. So just to the kind of nitty gritty of it in terms of your entrance criteria, you can find all of this in our prospectus, and if you go to the psychology pages within our website, you'll be able to see a direct link to our prospectus pages there and have a little bit more of a read about the programme. But we're looking at around about, it's 280 UCAS tariff points, which is the equivalent to 3 Bs and 2 Cs at Highers level. We would do 2 Bs and a C at A level, and then we have the equivalents from other governing bodies there as well. We do normally ask for a pass in Nat 5 in English and Maths. This is because we do have that commitment to numerical and literacy skills, and also the research methods modules that we take. So we do require you to have Nat 5 in mathematics. We are, however, at QMU fully committed to widening access of higher education in line with Scottish Government policies. We will take every opportunity to look at the particular profile of every student who applies to QMU, even if they don't quite meet these criteria. We have got lots of other opportunities in place to make sure that we are widening our access as much as possible. So if you would like to submit an application, even if you don't feel you quite meet the criteria that we have, but you want us to look at your profile and see whether or not there's anything we can do for you there, then please do get in touch. We also have a very active direct entrant procedure whereby students can do maybe their first 1 or 2 years at college and then join us at later years within the degree programme, depending on their own circumstances and how that fits. So please do get in touch if you feel that there's an opportunity for you to join us where you don't quite meet the criteria that are listed here for whatever reason. So thank you very much for listening. I would normally say any questions and open it up to the room, and you would all, actually most people would sit there and not talk to me, because it's always very scary when you've got a room full of 100 people and nobody wants to put their hand up. So that's probably what would happen. But we are available for questions, and we're going to have a drop-in session today so that you can come along and have a chat either to myself or to other colleagues about anything that you might have that you're kind of thinking about the programme, or anything you'd like confirmation of. You can also email me at any time. So again, my name's Dr. Claire Utman and my email address is on the screen just now. We also have our programme leader, Dr. Steve Darling, who is equally happy to answer any of your questions. So please do get in touch with them. And finally, you can explore our web pages. If you go onto the QMU website, navigate through the schools and divisions and find psychology, sociology and education, you'll be able to find information all about our programmes, but also about the individual staff members and our areas of interest, and anything else. You can read up on any research that we've been doing or any other information you care to find there. So again, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I hope I didn't speak too fast. It's very difficult to try and do this sort of thing directly to a screen without having anybody nodding and smiling at me, which I really miss. So anyway, I really hope that this has been helpful, but please do come along to our drop-in session later and ask any questions that you have then. Thank you very much. Bye.